really the goal is to engage people in following Christ's example. When Jesus was here on earth, he served, and what that looked like was him sitting side by side with people and getting to know them and meeting them where they were and providing for them in the unique way that he could at that time, and kind of giving us that model where we all know that we're different and we have things that we're really, really good at and things that we have definite room to grow in. And acknowledging all of those areas and saying, okay, I know me, I know what I have to offer. How can I use this for other people?
Hello, and welcome to More Than Sunday, a weekly podcast where we take a deeper dive into the stories, themes, and questions of our faith. My name is Eric Chakowski. I'm one of the worship directors here at First United Methodist Church, Richardson, and with me every week is one of our associate pastors, Josh Fitzpatrick. Josh, welcome back to Season 4.
It is good to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been several months. We hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It is 2020, and I hope the year has gotten off to a great start for everyone.
Our year has gotten off to a sick start.
Oh, no.
I don't know about you, but it seems like we are just not crawling out of the ditch of, we had flu and then just cold viruses, and I think maybe there's finally light at the end of the tunnel here.
Well, I hope you guys are all healthy now, and here's to a healthy 2020. We are so excited about 2020 at the church. Some of you may remember several years ago here at First United Methodist Church, Richardson, we had a year of gratitude where everything that we did, all of the events and ministries focused through the lens of gratitude and the role that gratitude plays in our lives, in the ways that we viewed our relationships with people, and the ways that we viewed our relationships with God. It was transformational for all of us here at the church. And so in 2020, the leadership of the church, including staff and lay leaders and clergy, really felt this calling that we had an opportunity to have a similar sort of year, but instead focus this year around service and the role that service plays in our lives and how that affects the way that we relate to people in our community.
And so as we look forward to what God has in store for us here at First Methodist Richardson in this year of service, this season of the podcast will correspond with the Lenten season. We'll have 8 episodes that'll be particularly focused on what it means to be in service with those in our community. We'd like to kick off this season of the podcast by interviewing our engagement coordinator here at First Methodist Richardson to help set the tone for what exactly the year of service is going to look like in the coming months. And so we want to welcome to the podcast, Rohini Drake. Today on the podcast, we are pleased to welcome one of our own staff members, our engagement coordinator here at First Methodist Richardson, Rohini Drake. Rohini, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A lot of our church members know you, but we realize that our listeners, some of them do not. So could you tell us a little bit about your connection to First Methodist Richardson and about maybe how long you and your family have been attending our church?
Well, so I'm pretty new to the church. My family and I are. I came here actually not to attend church. I hadn't even gone to a Methodist church before. But I was in a place where I was staying home with the kids and my husband was working, and, you know, you kind of get in that same monotonous routine and kind of like something's not right. And you look at the calendar and you're like, well, there's nothing in this calendar that has my name on it. It's all for the kids. It's all birthday parties and preschool parties and sports and things like that. And so I decided, you know, it probably is time that I find something to do. Thought about maybe I should learn to knit. Maybe I should join a running club. Turns out I do not like to run very much, so that didn't work out.
That.
I sang in choir in high school and really enjoyed that. So I was like, well, maybe there's a choir somewhere, a church choir I could join that you don't have to audition for. And so I Googled church choir, and guess what the first name that popped up was?
Is that really how you found your way to the church? You're looking for a church choir, and you Googled, and First Methodist Richardson popped up.
Website for Chancel Choir popped up. Mike Lightfoot's name was there, and I emailed him that day, and he emailed back and said, "No, there's no auditions. Just come down. We rehearse on Wednesdays, and see what you think of it." So I came down, and from the moment I walked in, everyone was super nice and they had music ready for me. They fit me for a robe. Like before I even had walked into the rehearsal, they were like assuming for sure she's going to stay and sing on Sunday. And it was just a really good vibe here. And even throughout the first rehearsal, kind of thinking, well, this is fun. Like, this isn't what I'll do forever. I probably won't even come on Sundays. It's just nice to have a thing to do one night a week. But somehow they convinced me to come on that Sunday. And so the first time I went into the sanctuary was just walking in right there and singing with the choir.
Wow.
And really, that is what brought me by myself to the church. And it was Wednesday nights and Sundays. I'd sing at both services because I was already here. Never went to any Sunday school classes, or I don't think I'd even gone to modern. I just sang and would leave. But then people would invite me to lunch and make connections, and it's really a place where people embraced me and invited me in and didn't make me feel like the new person. Some of these people had been singing for years and years, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like I was just part of the group, part of the team, and they enjoyed having me there. And I started to invite my husband to come, and we were kind of in a weird place where he was doing his thing, I was doing mine, kind of like parallel paths, but nothing like really intersected together. So he didn't really come, but I think he came to a Good Friday service where the choir was singing. And then after that, he'd kind of come every Sunday, just kind of by himself. Then he started to bring the kids. And then he started to come to 9:45 service and then hop over to modern. And so they were all three of them, my two kids and him, were doing 2 services a Sunday.
Okay.
So like kind of like jumped in like really hard, really fast.
Yeah.
And then kind of like the way the church works, once people invite you and you find your community and your family here, and then, start volunteering and helping out, doing things. And then all of a sudden you're on staff. And you're like, wait, how did that happen?
Well, it's so great to hear you share that story. I think a lot of times that's the trajectory we hope that people take, maybe not with the staff element, but that they find an area of the church that impacts them in a positive way that they can connect with, and that they find community through that. And so that's such a great story. So I appreciate you sharing that. So last year, our church council and staff decided that we wanted to make the year 2020 the year of service, just for the way that it might impact the lens through which we look at all of the ministries that we do. And so around the same time, we were also recognizing a growing need to have someone on staff who could help church members get more engaged in the life of the church. So a few months ago, you officially became our church's engagement coordinator, which is a brand new position here at First United Methodist Church, Richardson. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that position entails?
Sure. I'll tell you the one really fun thing, really great thing about it is that there's no real job description yet. Like, it gets to be a job that's created specifically for what the needs are at this church. What does engagement mean? Are there areas where people easily get plugged in and find a place to serve, or a place where they feel like they belong? Or are there places where, groups of people are not finding that, and kind of getting to define what that looks like for us here, for our church family? Kind of almost trying to recreate the way I got here. The choir is a group of people that, they don't necessarily look like me. We're not in the same age ranges all the time. There's people that are in different phases of life than I am. Their kids are sometimes my age, or they don't have kids at all. But it's still a group where we all get along and we all connect. And to me, that's unique, because I would have assumed I would come here and find people that, we all have kids in the same age group, and those would be my people. And I've definitely met people like that. But to just find the place that was right for me. And there's so many great things happening here at the church that there is a place for everybody to feel that they're connected and feel like they have their people.
And so you quickly become an expert on all things First Methodist Richardson. I know one of the greatest things for me is now when I have people in a sermon, if I'm able to create a challenge and say, we have this need for community as people, we need to get plugged in. If you want to be in a small group or a Sunday school class, email me and I'll point you in the right direction. People are responding to that, and I'm able to say, hey, let me introduce you to my friend Rohini. And you're able to take the conversation from there and give them some options, because like you said, there are a ton of options here at First Methodist Richardson. So again, going back to this idea of the year of service, So the year 2020 here at First Methodist Richardson is the year of service, and part of your responsibilities this year in particular are to be on the team that is spearheading that. Can you tell us a little bit more specifically about what the year of service is and why we are undertaking this initiative as a church?
Sure. When I kind of got the information about what I would be working on next, the year of service, trying to back up and figure out, well, what does that mean? Given pretty vague instructions of like, well, define it, what should it look like? What's best for this church? And doing some research and figuring out, well, should it be where we track all of the hours that people are serving? There's a lot of people, there's a lot of projects, there's a lot of ministries here where people are reaching out through the church into the community. Like, do we want to know all of that? Or do we want to go a different direction? And so some of that involved us asking the pastors here and asking the staff here, what does service mean? When we say that, when we ask people to engage in service, what does that mean biblically? What does that look like? And Josh, you were part of those conversations where pastors kind of submitted, their favorite Bible verses or things in their lives that led them to feel that service was an important part of who we are as Christians. And so we kind of decided that really the goal is to engage people in following Christ's example. Like when Jesus was here on earth, he served, and what that looked like was him sitting side by side with people and getting to know them and meeting them where they were and providing for them in the unique way that he could at that time, and kind of giving us that model where we all know that we're different and we have things that we're really, really good at and things that we have definite room to grow in, and acknowledging all of those areas and saying, okay, I know me, I know what I have to offer. How can I use this for other people?
So very practically speaking, you've sort of cast the lens and the vision for what that looks like. But practically speaking, are there particular goals that you and the Year of Service team have in mind for this church and for our members this year? Are there particular events that you want people to attend, or is this just kind of an all call to encourage people to continue serving the community?
Is it too confusing to say? It's like all of it. We want, that all to happen. Yeah. Individually, we definitely want people to think about ways that they can kind of be that representation of love. When they're at home with their kids, with their families, when they're at the grocery store, post office, in the community. There's lots of tangible needs. But, when I came to the church, I didn't need a sandwich. I needed people. And to kind of recognize that everybody that we meet and interact with have different needs, and trying to find ways through the church and through our communities to reach out. And sometimes it is somebody just needs a sandwich. So finding those places with all the ministries that are happening currently, or going out into the community and asking, what can I do? How can I help? And taking that in this year, really focused on doing that, and hopefully to continue that past this entire year of service.
I think it's kind of cool to see how it's already begun to grow organically, if you will. So we had a kickoff event recently where people were encouraged to bring canned goods, and we didn't know how people would respond to this, but people brought almost 3,700 pounds of canned goods to donate to Network of Community Ministries, and the truck that we had prepared wasn't big enough to carry everything that was donated, so we had to find a backup plan, and we passed out T-shirts that everybody in the church is now wearing that say, "Love served here." I'm looking down because I'm wearing my T-shirt at the moment. And also, I loved that we had this board where people were able to write down on a card the service that they're currently involved in and place it on there, because it inspires others. They say, oh, wow, so that's how somebody's serving my community. Just the whole organic nature is really neat to see how we can inspire each other as the whole initiative continues to grow.
Yeah, it was really cool to see all of the different ways people are serving currently, but then also to realize that the entire year of service really comes out of a whole history of people laying the groundwork here at this church for years and years and decades of being part of this community and loving others and serving others in all the ways that are unique to us and unique to this church.
One of the reasons that we're particularly excited about this season of the podcast is that we will have the opportunity to highlight some of those things that people have been doing for years and years here through First Richardson, and get to talk to some members of our church who are really setting the example for the rest of us. Now, you've been talking a lot with our staff about this book by Bob Goff that's got you fired up about serving others. The book is called Everybody Always. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes that book so special and maybe why you think it would be a great book for people to read this year?
Yeah, it's a book that got passed to me over the Christmas holidays when I was kind of researching what service, church engagement, things like that. And Bob Goff is really positive, upbeat, kind of quirky guy. And so his stories are funny, they're short, they kind of stick in your head. And I found that this book really helps me to just practically put into practice, how do I love someone? His first chapter in that book, I think it's called Creepy People. And you read that and you kind of think, oh my gosh, where is this going to go? And really all he's saying is that, sometimes loving people, it's hard because some people seem creepy to us. We don't know everybody. We got ideas of different people and what they might be like. And it's super easy to serve people that we know and we're comfortable with, but kind of stepping into that uncomfortableness helps us grow and really helps us to make an impact and really love people. So it's an exercise in kind of getting outside of ourselves.
And so at your recommendation, I've begun reading the book, and it's a fun read. It's an easy read. The chapters are short enough that I can read it just in the morning before breakfast or just on the run. And the stories he tells are so funny. And yet at the end of it, you're laughing and you're crying because there's such a deep impact. The creative ways, I think, that he has compassion for people and only the way that Bob Goff can.
So you talk, Rohini, about some of the practical things that he talks about. I don't mean to keep being like hey, let's talk about practical things, but here we are. I know. Wah, wah. But okay, so let's talk about that. So I'm sitting in the pew or the chairs in the monitor service, and I'm thinking, I'd really love to serve my community in some way, but I don't know where to start. So what should I do?
Thank you for that segue into the website.
If we pitched it, you get to hit it.
Yep.
Well, one way for sure, we created a website for the year of service where we've kind of gathered all the opportunities that this church has already had available just into one place that's easy to search and find places to get involved. We've also had submissions from our church members and church family that have suggested other places to get involved in the community, internationally, places that they've served and had really positive experiences with, or people and groups that they've interacted with that, because this church is pretty large, just getting the word out, say, hey, this group over here needs some help. I feel like my church can come through for it. And so we featured some of those on the website. So it's kind of a practical, easy, one-step way to get involved. But really it's, you could list those all day long, but until you really feel like it's time, I'm ready to do something, kind of that personal commitment that, yeah, I'm going to engage in this, I'm going to take those steps, I'm going to maybe be uncomfortable, but that'll lead you to serve in the ways that God has called you to serve.
Sometimes the first step's the hardest one, right?
For sure.
And so what is the website?
It's www.fumcr.com/year of service.
And so if I'm looking for an opportunity to get plugged in, I'm a little nervous, I don't know really what type of opportunity, I go to fumcr.com/year of service, and it lists opportunities.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask the flip side. So if I know of an opportunity or an organization in the community that I've worked with that could benefit from our church resourcing through volunteers or whatever, I can post opportunities to the website as well?
Right. There's a space to submit opportunities that'll get posted from submissions like that.
And are those limited to what we're doing here at the church? Or if there's a completely objective, unconnected third-party organization somewhere here in the Richardson area that needs some help, are we submitting those too?
Yeah, we're submitting those. And some of them, just because there's so many that can be submitted, we'll feature them for, I think, about 60 days and kind of reevaluate, get back with whoever submitted it, just so we can feature lots of other places, because there's just tons of places that, we're plugged into and want to feature.
Rohini, one other situation that my family finds ourselves in, and that I think other people do too, is that it's sometimes difficult to find areas to serve that are child-friendly. So are there opportunities for families to serve together in some of these capacities?
There are. There's places on the website hopefully throughout the year of service, as part of it, we want to intentionally offer opportunities where all ages can serve together and include families in that, because there really isn't anything better than, watching your kids and modeling for your kids and just being part of their experience. Some real practical ways right now would be, teach their Sunday school class and walk in there, let them see you model and love other kids just like you love them, and all serve together. There's really nothing hard about it. It is just that first step.
And are there ideas in the works? I know we're right at the beginning of the year of service still, and it's, like I said, kind of organically growing. As we look down the road in the year 2020, are there things that are hoping to come to fruition?
Yes, the ideas are very big and exciting. And I think one goal would be that we have a day where all of the church can serve together to really be a powerful force in the community and plug into places where the community has said, hey, we need help here. And our church can answer that call and get out there and be the hands and feet and plug in and really be part of this community in a meaningful way.
I love that idea, to be able to see a huge impact in that way and count the thousands of hours that our church is capable of. That's an exciting thing. So we'll stay tuned for more information about that. I am so excited about this initiative and the year that is ahead of us, and we appreciate so much your work on it. We've got one more question that we ask everyone that comes on the podcast, and that question is this: up until this point in your life, what is one thing that you wish someone would have told you?
Man, I listen to the podcast, and I often think when I listen to the podcast, okay, if I was ever on there, what would my answer be? I totally didn't even think about this. Oh, man. I wish someone had told me to never enter the Target dollar spot with your kids, because once you break that seal, every time.
The Target dollar spot.
That's a good one. We haven't had that one.
It's funny because you walk by it every time you go in. I think my kids don't know it exists.
You're lucky.
We walk fast past that.
Yeah.
Every time. Please, one thing from the Target dollar spot.
Blindfold your kids as you walk by the dollar Target spot. Yeah.
Rohini, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It is such an exciting time to be at First United Methodist Church Richardson. There's been a lot of time, prayer, intention put into finding pathways and opportunities for people and families to serve. And we want to encourage everyone to take advantage of those opportunities, that we might more fully experience the nature and character of God through service.
In one of those meetings that Rohini was referring to, where the clergy sat down and talked about the motivation behind the year of service, what stands at the foundation, one of the verses that kept coming up over and over was the call of Abram, as God makes this promise to Abram to make his descendants into a great nation, which we knew to become Israel. It says this in chapter 12, verses 1-3, as God speaks to Abram. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed."
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of More Than Sunday. If you like the podcast, please feel free to share it, go online and leave a comment, or give us a rating so that others might hear about us. We've got a new episode coming out every Wednesday, so make sure you also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. If you want to find out more about First United Methodist Church Richardson, you can find us online at FUMCR.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. Special thanks to Rohini Drake for joining us this week, and make sure you tune in next Wednesday when we have a conversation with Hollis Owens and TJ Smelko from To Be Like Me. Have a great week.